Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, everyone. I'm Ahmed Kailani. I will be your host for today's Project Oman webinar, titled Omani Construction Sector, Challenges and Opportunities. This is one of many webinars that IFP Group is launching in the region, and specifically partnering with Al Nimr Expo for the Omani sector, for the Omani market. Thanks to this partnership with Mr. Salim Al-Hashmi, chairman of Al Nimr Expo, we decided to run a series of events in Oman itself. One of them is to run the exhibition, Project Oman Exhibition and Conference, on the 7th till the 9th of December, in order to encourage the investment and to showcase the opportunities in the Omani market. So please, if you would like to know more details about the exhibition, how to participate and how to be there, and also to know more about the Omani market itself, please go to our website, project-oman.com, in order to get all the information needed. Before we introduce the speakers, I would like to mention a few house rules for our guests. The session today will be for 45 minutes, panel discussion. Plus, we have 15 minutes at the end of the session for open for Q&A. So we can give you the chance and the opportunities to ask your questions to our speakers. The Q&A is open for all our guests, and you can see it at the bottom of the screen, the Q&A button. Also, bear in mind that the microphone and the camera, it's actually limited only to our speakers and moderator. So please type your questions directly, either mentioning the speaker you want to ask the question to, or just make it generic, and then we will see exactly who will answer and give you the best answer for it. I don't want to take more of your time, and I would like to introduce you to the speakers of the day. We have Mr. Fahad Al-Ismaili, CEO of Tibyan Properties, Shahwar Al-Balushi, ex-CEO of Oman Society of Contractors, Mr. Simon Karam, Director of Sarouj Construction, Hashir bin Ubaid bin Hashir Al-Mahrouqi, Senior Director of Real Estate Investment Projects in Oman Investment Authority. Our moderator of the day, Mr. Philip Higgins, Director in Ventures and Site. Thank you for your time. I will pass it to Mr. Philip, and I will see you at the end of the 15 minutes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Philip. Here you guys for you.
Thanks, Ahmad, and thank you for joining us. We look forward to having a very informative webinar today with our wonderful panel. Well, this year we've seen a steady construction activity in Oman, but understandably the pace has slowed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but project sites have remained open and the industry has continued to move forward. Well, in the news this past few months, we've heard of new projects continually being awarded for construction and new projects announced or new developments announced for the region as well. It's been a difficult time for all of us these past few months, but it does seem that in Oman, the construction sector has continued at a healthy pace, a little bit more healthier than the rest of the GCC. Well, it's expected that 2020 will see some decline in construction spend in Oman, but at this time, that forecast is within the numbers in range to the average of the past 5 years. Leading international and domestic contractors are still active throughout Oman, as the opportunity in Oman still seems to attract international players of top-ranking category. We hear of new solar power projects and new industrial expansions and some very impressive infrastructure awards, especially in the last few months. And I'm sure that our panel today will help us to understand a little more for the future of construction in Oman. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your contribution. Simon, I'm going to ask you our first question for the day, and I was wondering if you could explain to us a bit of an overview of the current landscape in Oman. Where is the development hotspot happening today throughout the Sultanate? I think Simon is still on mute. Mr. Simon, you might have to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much,
there you go,
for asking me to be the first to talk. The landscape has, in essence, has not changed. It reduced in size and in priorities. the driver to the construction company, the driver of the volume of construction remains in the oil and gas and in the petrochemicals at the moment. Oil and gas, we have not very much of oil, but it is scattered all over the country, and it is difficult to extract in many cases, which generates quite a lot of work, more than normal. And we have to keep up that pace to keep up our national production. In petrochemicals, we have two mega projects, which are the Liwa plastic in Liwa and the Duqm refinery, which will, we hope, generate lots of downstream industries, and the construction, the contractors will be looking at that. A third area of the landscape, of the hotspot, as you know, we had the national Tanfiz program for diversification of our economy, and from it came out several projects, particularly projects in food security and industries concerning food security, cement factories, and many other projects. On infrastructure, of course, Oman did lots of efforts in infrastructure in the previous years. At the moment, I would say that our attention goes to creating national grid in electricity, connecting all the country's production station, power stations to create a network. Huge contracts have come out, 400 kilovolts, which is a novelty in Oman, overhead lines. Similarly for water, we're trying to create a national network of water. Sewage is being developed, fishing harbor, and we talk about roads. There's less roads, although lately, as you said, Philip, 2 projects have been awarded on the dualization of Nizwa Thamrit Road, but we're looking at a very, very challenging road and difficult road from Khasab to Liwa to Diba. It is on the program. As you mentioned also, we have the projects in energy. We participated, let me do a bit of commercial, in the first 105 megawatt solar plant in Nimr, and a 500 megawatt plant is being built at the moment in Ibri. More are being considered to be built in Adam, about 1,200 megawatts. So all this is at the moment where we are looking, forward to as contractors in the construction industry. There is, of course, the real estate. You see that has suffered a lot. Few hotels will be built, like Saint Regis Hotel, but the part of construction which will never stop, it's the need of private houses for Omanis. We need about 5,000, 6,000 houses. We don't like to live in flats. Houses for Omanis, but these are being built by the owner themselves or by smaller companies, which is great because it gives a chance to SMEs as well to grow. This, in few words, I think, gives a bit of the landscape of the construction industry in Oman.
Well, just taking it from there, Mr. Fahad, I understand that you're a private investor in Oman, and you actually develop and sell and market private construction development. Could you give us a bit of an overview as to some of the development activities that you're seeing now in Oman?
Yes, Philip, thank you very much for the host. And the real estate investment in Oman is still promising, as the yields are higher compared to other parts of the world. And the cost of land also is relatively at reasonable rates. And also the construction rates also are not that expensive in terms of the geographical aspects of the land here in Oman. Therefore, it makes the right mix when an investor looks at development of real estate. Also, the sales of real estate development units, whether it's residential units or commercial units, was started to pick up in the last 5 years. We did not notice a lot of Omanis planning to live in apartments in the last, let's say, 10 to 20 years. But lately, people are starting to accept that, and especially for the newly meds, people who have just started their lives, they don't mind purchasing an apartment to start their life living there and then move into a bigger space or develop the land which was granted to them by the government. You know, Oman is one of maybe few countries, or maybe the only country, maybe probably in the world, that grant lands to all its citizens, males and females as well. Therefore, every Omani has the chance to accommodate himself in an owned shelter, and therefore it is a habit to all Omanis to enter into real estate, even though the purchasing power, maybe it's a little bit lower than other places in the region, because the purchase is restricted mainly to locals and GCC nationals, except for the ITC projects. But however, the demand and the drive into real estate investment is still promising. I mean, we've been facing some difficulties lately during the COVID times. However, this is very unpredictable times and very unexpected situations where we are dealing with it, and with no prior experience. We are building our experience as we dive into this situation. And alhamdulillah, so far, I think with the guidance of our government and the guidance of all the military, healthcare, and the civil services, we are coping, and market is still catching up and holding to its strength. I would not say that we are in our best times, but we are not looking into this as a disaster or as a showstopper to proceed. I think that Oman is still heaven of peace, heaven of investors. The yields are good. Therefore, we are proceeding with our investments in the real estate sector.
You mentioned that in the last 5 years, you've seen tremendous improvement to the construction sector. Maybe you're not aware, but back in 2015, following from the worldwide economic crisis that did affect us quite severely throughout the region, the recovery from that 2009 period to 2015 was gradual and slow. But from 2015 to 2016, there was a tremendous recovery in the Oman region, almost 40–50% increase in construction spend in the region, and it's stabilized at that. I mean, it's been consistent for the last 5 years. The COVID-19 pandemic, as you've mentioned, has put a slowdown on everything, but are people still spending money in the region? Are you still selling today?
Yes, I would say, Philip, that the appetite is still there. We do sell, not as strong as before, but I would say, I mean, during the pandemic period, let's say, for example, in June, here in Tibian, we managed to do more than 1 million riyals of retail sales. That is a good number compared to how the market is. In July, the number has increased. In August, the number also is equal to what we did in July. Therefore, I think the appetite is still there, but people are being very selective. And it's the buyer's market for sure. There's no doubt in that. But it is very selective. If the development is not containing all the necessary amenities that are required for the lifestyle of the person living in the development, those kind of projects will definitely suffer.
Well, let us know if you have any special deals for our webinar guests today. You know, 5% off or a free camel with every house. Or whatever deal you put together there, Fahad, we'll support you. You give away camels with your houses? I mean, that's a good, I could come and be your marketing specialist. That would be really fun. I think we'd have a good time.
Mr. Simon on that.
Yeah. We give Actually, we give Ferrari after every contract, you know.
Okay, I'm there. Oh, that's pretty good. All right, very good. Hey, Mr. Hashil, let's hear from you. You've been a strong player within the construction sector for many years. So what are the factors that are influencing success or failure in the construction sector in Oman today?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Well, Philip, I'll start where you ended, when you've been asking something in return for you to invest in any projects. And I think that's a norm, to be honest. But then that's lead me to the first point, which is about the alignment between the objectives. So when you start any projects, due to so many different stakeholders, the real kind of a factor to influence the success or the failure is about this misalignment between those objectives. So someone will be doing this for a nation-wise, and someone will be building this for bottom line, and someone will be going for an IRR things. Unless we align these, I think it's the first factor that influence normally the success or a failure of a project. And that's resulted in the changes framework or the management of the changes in any projects. Because of my objective is about having a cheap project, then I will go with different changes affecting the quality. And if my objective is really to build something for the nation, then I will really go about the quality and I will affect the bottom line. So that's what we need to have the right alignment whenever we're starting a project. That's important for all the stakeholders. Secondly is about the framework for these changes. Error, omission, addition, all of these is really one of the biggest factor influencing the success and the failure of the project. The last one is about the wrong competencies. So we'll have different parties playing different roles in the project, different stakeholders, and assuming that we can do real estate development. And I think that the panelists here will agree with me that there's an assumption that I can do a real estate until you are in the real business. And then you know that the needed competency is not as easy as you will think. It's about putting blockworks together and then putting the finishes. It's bigger than that one. So between these three factors, unless we get it right, unless we have the right framework and doing this one, I think it will be influencing the success and the failure of any project.
The quality of construction in Oman has been very, very well appreciated. I come from the glass industry and have traveled Oman and worked with consultants in projects design for many years. And I've always been impressed with the quality of new design structure and the quality of the execution of the projects. And so a very important point. Shanswa, what are some of the challenges that are facing the construction sector today, from your opinion?
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Well, I try to summarize the challenges into three key elements. The first one is liquidity. The construction companies are now facing quite a challenge in terms of liquidities because of the delay in receivables from the client side, and also the availability of credit facilities from the bankers, most of them trying to sustain the COVID-19 situation. The reduction in projects since 2016 onward has actually affected their ability to have sufficient liquidity, and they have depleted some of them, their credit facilities. Restructuring those facilities is costing them a substantial amount of liquidity as well. So that's one primary item there. Second primary item is actually having sufficient projects to sustain the sector as a whole. We have seen since the oil prices has reduced and dropped, the government slowed down effectively some of these priority projects. And like Simon said, many of the projects were oriented in the oil and gas sector, which continued to sustain a little bit of the industry. But in the infrastructure projects, we've seen quite a number of reduction, which has affected quite a lot of companies. And the numbers of projects in terms of number and sizes is yet not sufficient to carry the sector as a whole, which we have right now. So that has led to the sector itself downsizing and becoming the right effective mobility size or efficient size to meet the need of the project that are existing in the market. You have mentioned, and Simon has mentioned, we are seeing some new projects coming in, which should help to move forward the construction sector. Also, at the same time, The project's effect was caused by many of the key sectors, industrial, logistics, tourism, real estate, also have been impacted by the COVID-19 and the economic downturn. And therefore, the sizes of the project coming from these sectors also have been reduced. The last one is debt servicing. Many companies are facing serious problems in servicing their debts with the banks. I've had discussions with several banks. I've had discussions with several companies. Still, the financial institutions are not flexible enough to allow these companies to survive this difficult time and to structure a relationship that would allow these companies to go forward. We may see a little bit of reduction in companies, closures, etc., unless we see a quick recovery for the sector. And of course, any such closures and so on will impact the supply chain, vendors, subcontractors, may lead to layoffs, etc., and so on, which again will impact purchasing power, particularly if layoffs comes down to local workforce. So these are the three key challenges. I tried to summarize them in these three key challenges, which I think we need to find solutions towards them, and then we might see a better healthy sector in very near future.
We might discuss some of those solutions as we progress during this afternoon. But it's interesting, though, that your immediate focus was to the financial management. And I guess it's important that we recognize that we are still in this period of pandemic. We have not progressed from the pandemic to the recovery process. And during this pandemic period, we've seen construction activity continue, but we have seen a slowdown in the design activity and new private developments being released for construction. The governments throughout the entire GCC have helped to keep things stimulated with the talk and the promotion and the award of some infrastructure projects. And of course, that will lead the recovery. And so it's very important. At some point in time, we will hit a hole. The construction's going on, there's no design. When does that catch up? And that's when we'll start to see, as you're talking about, some of that cash crunch. So look forward to reviewing that as we progress. Simon, I've always been impressed, Simon, with the fact that in Oman, there has been a very strong emphasis for Omaniization. And I love it when I get to the airport and I walk out into Muscat and I see Oman people working. I think this is a wonderful concept. How's this progressing within the construction sector? You're on mute again. You're such a good talker. We shouldn't keep you on mute.
You know, maybe people read my lip reading. Let me add one more challenge to enter into the subject to what Shahswar has enumerated, and it is the national workforce. You see, we consider our national force very, very preciously, and the COVID showed that you cannot rely all the time on expatriates. You know, you have to build your own strength. The last 20 years, the private sector and the government has joined effort to try to offer jobs, to train, and to employ Omanis. We have not been very successful, but we care today as a big challenge not to discharge any Omani from their job, despite the reduction in volume of work. You see, at present, we have 1.5 million workers working in the private sector. Out of these, maybe 700,000 are in the construction. A bit less these days. We lost quite a few, maybe 600,000. Out of the 1.5 million, we have 252,000 Omanis. So we're at about 16–17% Omanized, which is not very high, but it is not negligible. So the challenge at these days is how to keep that workforce, the Omanis that we've trained. And we could only do that by talking with the government, with the upstream operators, with the big clients to see how we can. And two major things took place in that direction. One is the creation of a job security fund. In other terms, His Majesty was the first, he took the first initiative in creating a fund which will be operational very soon, whereby if an Omani has lost his job, he will continue getting some pay until he finds a job or upskills himself to other skills and find a job. Where would he find a job? Of course, we have 1.2 million expatriates still working. So we do not have, firstly, to go and create job. What we have first to do is to train Omanis in the skills where we are using expatriate people. And you see, there has been big reshuffle in the structure of the government. We were many authorities dealing with Omanization. We had National Training Fund, we had the Ministry of Manpower, we had the Register for National Workforce. All this has been grouped lately by a decree, by the decrees that came out, promulgated lately. Now we're concentrating more the effort on training the Omanis. So adding to what Shahswar has said, it is definitely a big challenge not to discharge the workforce that we've trained and keep them employed or retrain them for other skills.
But it contributes to the challenge of the day as well. You're talking about increasing that Omanization in the workforce, and the reason that there is, an imbalance is because it's less expensive to employ somebody as an expatriate from another country in that labor, in that low salary kind of capacity. And in construction, there is a lot of laborers. And so in order to make that shift, we are simply adding costs to the construction process, I presume. And so where we have, a lack of cash and increased costs at this particular time, moving forward with recovery, we are looking for, some degree of profitability. Shahswar, do you got some comments on this? What are some of the solutions that that you see in the future as we move ahead for these challenges and others?
Well, just to pick up on what Simon has said, we have opportunities in the private sector that are 1.2 million. And let's take a figure assumption that 1 million are what we call a blue collar, and the 0.2 or 0.3 million, 300,000 are white collar workers. I think we have a very good level elasticity to allow Omanis to come into the workforce if we develop them, give them the right skills, allow them to enter the company correctly in the right jobs, and build them across. Now, in other solutions to actually try to take the sector forward in order to address some of these functions, I think we need to now gear our mindset. That means the government, the private sector, and everybody, and let's put the idea of zero oil. If we work towards the concept of zero oil, then we will focus on trying to stimulate the other sectors which can create substantial amount of job opportunities and activities. Construction sector is a service sector. We build because a factory needs to be built, a hospital needs to be built, hotels, etc., and so on. So if we stimulate the health industry, the education industry, the manufacturing, tourism, real estate, and so on, we are actually moving the wheel and allowing the construction sector to come in and service these dynamic sectors. And therefore, if we say let's consider zero oil situation, and we pump a lot of efforts, money, make Oman ready for business, and allow local, regional, and international investors to come and put money in these different sectors, the construction sector will pick up, and the sector itself will also employ a huge number of local workforce as well as expatriates, bringing in extra activity, extra purchasing power going forward. So stimulation, economic stimulation in other sector is very important. In the short term, we need to have the financial institution, the central bank, to work with the sector to allow it to structure itself in order to protect the industry. Many companies have been in existence for long years, 40 years, 30 years. We don't want to see these old reputable companies to go under because of debt restructuring. We need to see the central bank coming in, taking a proactive solution with the local banks, engaging with the companies, allowing them to restructure themselves in terms of the debt restructuring and so on. So I think when we couple the situation of financial restructuring, debt restructuring, economic stimulation, all the other sectors, human capital development, like said by Simon, we've created the right steps to stimulate the economy to drive the sector forward.
In some of the other areas throughout the GCC, we've heard of significant layoffs from the construction sector. I mean, the construction activity is slow, and there seems to be people being laid off. The workforce is being reduced. Some people have taken salary cuts. What are we seeing in the Oman construction activity today? Fahad, do you have any comment on this in your company? Are you seeing need to lay people off or reduce their salary?
If the time allows, I wanted to add something, but later on, probably on that subject. Thank you.
Okay.
With regards to our company, Tibian Properties, we tried our best until now, until this minute, to not have any cut on our employees' welfare. We did not even lay off any employee until now. The reason is that we do have very good property management programs that kept us living and collecting cash from the market. Therefore, and our collection is basically from individuals and some commercial tenants. Therefore, we don't have big collections that are there like how the contractors do have maybe some struggles in that. Therefore, our sales levels also, as I said in my previous talk, that is continuing, not at the best levels, but at least we are managing. However, if the pandemic and its effects keeps on rolling for the next 4 to 5 months, then and the market also becomes as it is, and there is no significant improvement, and probably the door is not yet open for all nationalities to come and invest here in Oman, and it becomes only restricted to the ITC market, then I think companies like ours will have some difficulties in managing the cash flow. But as I said, and I strongly believe that the maybe to the local Omanis and to the individual, probably real estate is the most desired investment tool, and it is you can hardly see a Omani national with no real estate investments. Then other investment comes along, whether it's fixed deposits or shares or other investment methods. Therefore, it is, as I said also earlier, that it is a new experience. It is a new way of dealing with things. COVID-19 is teaching us a lot. We are learning a lot as we go through, and I strongly believe that things will get better, and we are going to complete with or continue with a good market, inshallah, in the near future.
Yes, very good, very good. Mr. Simon, you had another comment to make there, but you could just give us an update, and then I got a really good question for you.
Yeah, okay, excellent. You see, let me clarify a little bit what I was saying about finding new skills. We have also Shahswar to work on our culture and our prejudices amongst the young people. A young man is prepared to work as a heavy-duty driver. In other terms, he drives a truck. He drives a truck. He doesn't see, nor the society deals with him any differently. It's accepted. But you tell him that, look, there's a better job. You operate a machine where you are sitting in a cabin, air-conditioned. He doesn't want to. For some reason, we have to change that culture. Just to give you some figures, in the construction industry, we have about 50,000 machines working between dozer, grader, and not a single Omani, or very few Omanis work on them. It is this shift also, over and above what Shahswar said. We have to shift a little bit our culture by education, by media, and let the Omanis accept these jobs where they are better paid. This was only my intervention. Go ahead. If the question is not very difficult, say it.
I'm a man of your...
It's difficult, I put myself on mute. Otherwise, I put myself on mute.
In some of the discussions today, I've heard this term ICV a couple of times mentioned. I understand that ICV is a government consideration. Can you... And could you give us a bit of an update on how advanced Oman is with the implementation of this in-country value? And does this have any relevance to the construction sector? What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah. You see, as Shahswar said, or it was one of my friends, panelists, any construction concerns the construction industry. Now, ICV is in-country value. In other terms, if the government or an upstream operator or a major client spends 100 riyals, how many of these 100 riyals remain in the country? 18, 20, 25, how many? That's how we measure where we are in country value. Now, in-country value works on 4 things. We measure it by direct employment of Omanis, of course, because the money remains in the country, by buying products made in Oman, by using services provided by Oman, like renting a car or whatever it is, and finally by technology transfer, by educating the people. That remains an asset. We in the oil and gas industry, at that time Shahswar was the CEO of Opal, an NGO. We worked, we started with 18% in that industry. Basically, what is it in 2 words? You survey all what you import for that industry. Pipes, valves, chemicals, whatever it is. And you survey totally what you have locally. And you find that there is a gap. That exercise took us a few years, and we identified 52 opportunities of creating local industry and services. Out of these, there were many factories built, which the construction industry built. So whoever has money and wants to build something, the construction industry is affected by that. And what we are trying now on national level is to generalize, use the same success story that was done in the oil and gas into the other sectors like industry, like automobile, like it's not a novelty. I mean, South Korea went from $69 per capita to $29,000 per capita precisely by doing a global ICV. Voilà, that's it.
Yes, I understand. Thank you for that explanation. And it's important, but it also assists with knowing this because we are recently hearing of some tremendous new developments in that industrial space throughout the country, where there is a lot of government push and incentive to, invest in Oman in some of these activities. Hasil, you've been left there a little bit quiet. I've got a couple of good questions for you, because I'd like you to just talk to us a little bit about some of the barriers that you see for project execution today in Oman. What are some of those barriers that that can be addressed with good initiatives. I hear a lot from the industry about digitization and the development of new management principles within the construction sector. What are you hearing in the market today?
So when I started about the question you asked me, Philip, about the factors, I mentioned the wrong competency. And if you've noticed, the panelists, all of them is talking about making the culture of Omanis and kind of make a shift in their competency and making this industry really equipped and cater for the project we want to do. And I think we can use two industry in Oman that's very successful in terms of the Omanization, oil and gas and the banking sectors, for a simple reason, because they started building it from the education and the curriculum and they brought it up to what they needed in the industry. And I think that's missing now. It's a barrier for us to do a good project in Oman. And most of the developers don't have the return on investment as a tangible things for them to invest in this part of it. So if they see why they should invest into this one and they know that it will really be catered for doing projects right, I think we will have a go. Then knowledge management is another problem. We've been doing projects for the last 50 years, but then whenever we start a project, we go for it new and we reinvent the wheel because the knowledge management is not in place and it's not a culture thing. Third, what you have just mentioned is about technological limitation because the globe is moving toward that and we need to make this industry really hand in hand about going with the technological needed solution, which is yet it's not there. One of the things that no one yet touched, and I think it's a bane for all of us, is about the process, that we need to make this process. And I really have to say this, that currently, His Majesty is really making and determined about what we need to make this process easy, and we need to make this process very much supporting for whoever want to invest, and for the normal people, that whatever is needed from all of these authorities to approve it, it should be there. So I think we are in the right direction about this one, because the process was a big barrier, to be honest, to finish things in terms of the length of it or in terms of the complication of it. But I think we are now on track on that one.
You guys are so fantastic. I think we could continue discussing this for the next hour or so, but we are running out of time because we do want to go to questions. There are many questions from the audience today. Let's just go around the panel. Let me explain though. We've been faced with COVID-19 for a few months. We've seen construction activity slow. We've seen designers not designing new projects, but finishing what they've been designing. We've seen some infrastructure projects announced and some talk about future developments. We've seen a decline in the oil price. There's talk in Oman about the introduction of a VAT in 2021. There are many things that are surrounding us now, and I understand we simply don't have the answer for everything. I guess that's one reason why we're calling it global uncertainty. We just simply don't know, but we are doing everything best that we can to manage the situation that's before us as good managers. Why don't we start with Mr. Simon? How do you see the next year for Oman?
Unfortunately, we're still counting a lot on oil and the price of oil. So it will depend a lot on how the price of oil, but the way things are going, there seems to be some stability in the price of oil. If it remains in the range of between $40 to $60, and as one of my colleagues said, a country is very peaceful and the environment is good to attract, especially with the new commercial laws and that were promulgated. We hope to attract FDIs. But we suffered from COVID. You see, we had two big investors who wanted to come and invest, ENI of Italy, and Total, and BP, of course, in one area. They want to come, but they froze a little bit there. So with a little bit of patience and luck, we think the growth is going to continue, maybe not as spectacular as the 5 years that went, but we go to a sustainable regime. COVID has got some advantages, not in health, but in management techniques. We cut our costs, we became more lean. As companies, we're producing better for the same resources. So I see the future of the construction industry in Oman, quite good. We have to organize ourselves, structure and classify the contractors, upgrade them, and it'll be a good year.
Mr. Hasil, do you have anything to add to this? Do you think it's only oil, or are there other factors associated?
No, I think it's more than that. The idea that we are going now with the PPP, the public-private partnership, is something that we can rely on now, because that's the idea about whatever we've been depending in the past about now need to be mixed between the both sectors. And I think, just if I want to add to what we are discussing here, it's one of the solutions that we need to look at now is the idea of the partnership between the public and the private sector.
Mr. Farhad, what about you as the private investor there? Do you agree with these comments? Do you need more government support there for yes, your continued success? What do you see for the future?
Well, I can't disagree with Mr. Simon and Mr. Hashel. Of course, I do agree with what they have mentioned. However, I would like to also add to that that we've been hearing a lot now about managing KPIs of the authorities and government sectors, especially the service sectors. Therefore, these KPI managements are going to make the process more quick, and also time is a major factor for investors. Therefore, the cycle will definitely, to get the project done, will be lower than before. And also, when it comes to the VAT, I was very happy today to read a quick bulletin about the State Council and the Shura Council both agreed to advise the government to delay applying the VAT until 2022. Therefore, I think this kind of decision, even though it's not in favor of the government income, but at least it will help circulating funds and cash into the local businesses.
Very good. This is not official yet. You've just heard that was the proposal. Is that correct?
No, it's not official yet, but I heard it in...
Not official yet. But if it becomes official, you heard it first here at Project Oman. Very good. Thanks for that. Mr. Shazwa, any final comment from you? You're on mute. You have to unmute yourself, my friend. We love hearing your voice. Take that off mute, and you'll get the final word.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, I think like all the colleagues have said, if we restructure and reform our processes, if we expedite the approvals of projects and get it running, if Simon has said the sector has streamlined itself, it's become more efficient to deliver better projects. And I think if the government targets its stimulants in the right sectors, making more targeted towards those right sectors, I think what we are going to see is a recovery by probably end of 2021 or mid of 2022, where the economy is returning to its vibrant livelihood, and we are ready to go forward. I think the government should look at the idea of again, I go back, Oman is ready for business, meaning that we have streamlined processes, we have good projects in the country, our infrastructure is ready, our geopolitical is perfect, we have a good human capital available. If we promote all of these, I think we will attract local investors, which is very important, together with regional and international, and the economy will go forward.
Very good. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. You've been a wonderful panel, and we look forward to putting you on the hotspot for some very interesting questions. I see so many here. Ahmad, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Philip. Thank you. Yes, indeed. We received several questions. We don't have much time to actually go through all of them. Some of them are related to jobs. Some of them are related to the construction sector itself. And some of them are actually more into technicality on how to build and how to use within our project itself. So we spoke about Omanization and jobs. So the first actually question that we received is that why many companies require project management degrees more than construction management degree, and what are the significant difference between them? Is there any of you that would like to answer this question?
Shaswar.
Well, to be honest with you, I think most of them, most of the projects require project management engineers in order to manage the projects themselves. Construction management is specific to a specific functional activity, and therefore project management is more wider, which includes also construction management perspective into it. So I think the idea is to have a more comprehensive, and it's about value for money. I think project management is more preferred in that context.
Okay, perfect. I hope that you got your answer. Now we have also another question. For sure, like everyone is like facing specific difficulties during this pandemic, and some people and some companies are actually seeking some advices. One of them is related to marketing strategies to increase sales projections during this pandemic situation. So maybe is there any advice that maybe you would like to give to our guests for today on how they can like send the right message during this difficult time? Is there anyone who would like to answer this?
Fahd, there you are.
I was waiting for Mr. Simon to guide the
I take construction.
Well, marketing is the most important element in any sales operations and in any real estate development process. And I think nowadays the marketing tools are more effective and more you can send a message as quick as before, and also it's more cost effective. But I will definitely advise that whoever is willing to do any marketing campaign is to take an advice from a very good marketing strategist and a communication strategist who will be able to develop that message for that project. That's it.
Okay, perfect. We have another question, actually, it's an interesting question that is related to population growth. How does the panel feel about future rules to allow expats to stay long-term in Oman and invest their earnings in Oman? How can Oman provide long-term stability to expats? Is there anyone like
Well, you
to
see,
answer this?
there's already a law in Oman where you may apply for nationality. If you've served 20 years in Oman, you may apply for nationality. This is how I was honored by being granted the nationality 6 years ago. I had been here 50 years, not 20, and I was a good boy. Otherwise, they would not have given it to me. But having said this, we have new air in the country. We realize now that we need the good expatriate to remain in Oman. So it is being considered to give long-term visa, permanent visa for those who buy a property in Oman. Actually, now, if you buy a property in certain areas in Oman, you have access all the time to your thing. But we want to find, and we are studying schemes to encourage expatriates who have worked here for a long time to be given a nationality or a permanent residence. So more than any other time, we are aware of this factor, and I promise you in the near future, many things will be eased to encourage the expatriates to come and stay.
If I may add to what Simon has said, I think we also need to increase the population in the right segment of the population, like meaning that the professionals who are interested to grow their career in Oman, the professionals who are interested to spend in Oman and stay in Oman. If we increase that level of population versus the blue-collar population, then that population will generate purchasing power and and create more opportunities. So we have to create the opportunities to attract the professionals to come into the country.
Okay. There is one general question that maybe it's actually really interesting for our guests, especially the ones that are abroad. They would like to know what are the major construction projects available in Oman that are ongoing or maybe that are planned actually to be launched very soon. So basically kind of announcing or like showcasing specific opportunities in the Omani market. Also, if it's like in the time being, maybe it can be a bit on the standby or maybe going slow.
I won't call it only construction project, but I will say it's a major development that we are involved in. So we are developing a big project in the area of Muscat Yeti Yankit. That's a big project. We're talking of a land of around 12 million square meter. That's something we are doing. And then luckily we have development project ongoing all the way from Salalah to Musandam. And that's to be a mixed use between hospitality, residential, mixed use. So we have few big projects happening at the moment as we are speaking, which Oman Investment Authority are partner or an owner 100% through directly or through some of the subsidiaries we have, and that's across the Sultanate. But as a big projects, as I said, we have one here, we have one in Salalah, we have in Jabal Akhdar, we have in Musandam coming. So we have also now we are handed over looking at Sultan Qaboos Port. That's a big project coming. And so forth.
I received like several questions in the chat related to the railway. Is there any update to it?
At the moment, it is not very good news. The railway decision by GCC countries is made, and the railway was supposed to connect all the 6 GCC countries together. It is still under construction. Sections of it are completed. The Emirates, I think, gave a different priority to the priority of linking with Oman. There's a link that should have gone from Abu Dhabi to our border, but they gave priority to take it north, and they are constructing it towards Jabal Ali and the North State, but it will come. Without that, that's connecting with GCC. But Oman is also considering having their internal railway projects. At the moment, there is one on the anvil, which goes from practically Shwaimiyah to Dukum, about 200 kilometers, to transport minerals in particular. But to be honest with you, at the moment, there is not much momentum towards these projects. We have to wait for better days, whether to connect with GCC or whether to connect internally. That's the situation.
Definitely. We really look for better days, and we are all positive and excited to see everything to be back to normal. I would like to thank all of you for taking time and being with us and sharing this all amazing knowledge and informations. Before actually closing, it's important for us that if you can take like 1 minute of your time simply to answer our survey, because it's really important for us that we know your feedback and to see exactly what do you think about today's webinar, and maybe about the timing, if maybe next time you want us to make it like before or after. It depends on the times that people are actually free of taking an hour simply to refresh themselves with new knowledge and new informations. While people are actually answering, I really would like to thank every single one of you for being here, for helping us, for sharing those informations, and also thanking our partner, Al Namar Expo, for always supporting us and supporting the Omani market itself in order to encourage and to help companies from abroad to actually come and invest in Oman. As I said before, we have an exhibition coming ahead in December from 7 to 9 December. It's going to be a fully construction exhibition and conference. We actually encourage all of you to see the website, and if you're interested about Oman, please to join us either by exhibiting or just as visiting to it. Thank you so much again to everyone, and we look forward to see you in the coming webinars, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.